Buddy, it's a great pleasure to have with us Professor Balganapathi Devarkonda and Professor S. Paneer Selvam sir with us in philosophy family. Actually, philosophy family is a group, as we all know, interested in conducting webinars on issues reflecting the current trends. So taking that into view, Professor Balganapathi will be addressing a talk on reflections on philosophical health and in the first session, and we have Professor Paneer Selvam in the second session, who would be speaking on solidarity or objectivity with reference to Richard Rorty's methodology. So before inviting Professor Balganapathi to address his lecture, I have the privilege to briefly introduce Professor Balganapathi. Well, he is much known throughout India, especially during this COVID, when most of us have listened to him addressing various webinars, and that's how he's very popularly known. But still, a brief introduction I would like to give on Professor Balganapathi Devarkonda, sir. So, after completing his graduation from Andhra University, he joined the University of Hyderabad for his higher studies. He did his MA, MPhil and PhD from the University of Hyderabad. His focus area is political philosophy, and he worked on Hobbes' political philosophy for his MPhil and PhD. Well, he has other areas of interest too that include logic and scientific method, comparative philosophy and religion, globalization and education, historiography of Indian philosophy. And over the period of 20 years, he has been teaching various subjects, and he is very much connected with academics throughout India, delivering lectures, attending various seminars and conferences. And he has also organized many workshops, seminars and conferences. And during this COVID, we have come across Professor Balganapathi's series on Mahabharata, and he has invited many people to address on this, and I have attended one or two. And I have listened to him, his talks, various talks during the pandemic, and so he's academically greatly connected throughout India, and philosophy family is really fortunate to have him. Despite his busy schedules, he has agreed to deliver a talk in philosophy family. So without wasting much time, I would like to welcome Professor Balganapathi Devarkonda sir again to address on reflections on philosophical health in philosophy family. Welcome, sir.
Namaste. Thank you so much, Dr. K.N. Raoji, for that kind introduction. P.K. Dasji, who is the host of this event, and coordinator K.C. Maharanaji, and other my co-speaker of today's event, Professor Paneer Selvamji, and other distinguished colleagues who have joined us and friends who have joined us. I see Dr. Honorima Bhattacharya from North Bengal University and Kalyani Sarangiji. In fact, I must thank Dr. Kalyani Sarangi because she is the one who was continuously in touch with me and prompted me to join here. So I really thank her for the best efforts that she has made. Good evening to you all. I really appreciate this initiative of creating a space called philosophy family. That really sounds like we all belong to this one family of academia, and probably beyond academia as well, because limiting philosophy to only academia is wrong, at least in the Indian context, because philosophical knowledge is always produced beyond academia. That's how academicians only reflect on the knowledge that is produced beyond academia, and then go further in developing their thoughts on that. That is how I'm so happy to be a part of this August gathering, and also being a part of this platform. In fact, I must tell you, Rao Saab, that it is my privilege and honor to be a part of this event. Thank you so much for the kind invitation. Having said that, the theme that was given to me, and also I have chosen this, like reflections on philosophical health. So let me try to address this concern. The question that comes forward is, what is this philosophical health that we are talking about? Is it a myth? Is it something that some people sitting in the ivory towers try to invent a myth which is blown on the people around the world, saying that there is something called philosophical health, otherwise it doesn't have any meaning at all? Is it, and also the subsequent question that comes forward is it that is it same or similar or different from physical and psychological health? These are the questions that we have to address when we talk about philosophical health. Is it something that is given to us, or something that is nurtured by us? Is it also, are there any similarities in the nature, content, and maintenance of the biological health and the philosophical health? These are the concerns that come up. In fact, people have ridiculed, saying that there is nothing called philosophical health. If there is something called philosophical health, then we have to close down all the hospitals and etc. Right? If philosophical health is most important, then all the hospitals and health industry that we have has to be closed. So this is how some people have ridiculed the concept of philosophical health and philosophical counseling, which helps us to reach philosophical health. So these are actually very valid criticisms that we come across when we talk about philosophical counseling or philosophical health, and these are to be properly investigated and responded, right? So that we can go further of saying what it is. And I believe such kind of criticism that we often come across in terms of understanding philosophical counseling to be same or similar to the biological, physical, and psychological health is a problem. This I will try to explain. Actually, I am writing a paper for a volume on philosophical health that is being brought out by Oxford University Press, which is being edited by a scholar by name Luis Miranda from Sweden, where I am presenting the views that I am putting forth before you. There is something called Epistemology of Health. Let me begin with the first point, that why is it that health is beyond the biological one? And in fact, I don't have to establish that, because World Health Organization, which we respect for, even for the COVID, all the protocols, etc., we have respected World Health Organization's perspective, right? So if we go by the World Health Organization's definition of health, its earlier definition, in fact, addressed only the biological concerns. But the revised definition of health that was provided by World Health Organization stresses the importance of other aspects other than the biological aspects with regard to health. Okay, for instance, World Health Organization defines, I am reading from the text of World Health Organization, defines health as a state of complete physical is given importance, mental is also given importance, but it says, and social well-being and not the absence of disease or infirmity. Okay, it is not merely absence of infirmity or disease. Okay, it is beyond the biological, beyond the psychological, and inclusive of social well-being as well. So that is what is very important to me in understanding or conceptualizing the philosophical health, which means it opens, it broadens the perspective of health, understanding of health that we have presently. So that is how it is not just limited. Health is not just limited to the biological one, and now and also it cannot be defined only in terms of the absence of something. Okay, see, this absence, defining things to be absence of something is a part of binary epistemology that somehow we have imbibed and we are trained in, and that is how we think that some of the concepts can only be understood as the absence of the other. So this is a problematic proposition to me, and I have been arguing against this binary epistemology. In fact, binary epistemology tells us that in order to understand a concept, you have to look at the opposite of the concept, and then you have to understand the concept as the absence of the opposite. So this is how binary epistemology operates. So for example, in order to understand the health, you have to create, or you have to discover, find out its opposite called disease, and understand health as the absence of disease. And you come back to disease, same process you follow. Okay, basically in the process you are not defining anything in a substantial manner. That is how there is a problem of going with binary epistemology. So keeping that aside, now let me come back to the main point that I'm referring to, philosophical health, and how do we conceptualize that. So having looked at World Health Organization's definition, which expands the perspective of well-being, let me also take you to another interesting aspect which helps us to understand being, health in a more coherent way. That is, when we look at the theories of well-being, because the concept of well-being is a broader one, and when we look at the theories of well-being, we find three interesting theories. One is a hedonistic theory of well-being. Okay, hedonistic theory of well-being. We all understand what is hedonism, which is focused on pleasure, and it counts subjective mental states of pleasure and pain or the contents of well-being. So that is how it is looked at, the conception of well-being by hedonistic theory. The second theory that we come across is desire satisfaction theory. It considers that satisfaction of personal desires is the well-being of the individual. So this is the second theory that we come across. After hedonistic theory, we have desire satisfaction theory. But beyond these, there is another theory which was proposed, which is called objective list theory, which argues that apart from the subjective mental states, there are objective goods such as knowledge, friendship, etc., which also form the components of well-being. Okay, so these are the three theories that we come across in. I'm sorry about the noise. Just give me 1 minute so that I can close the doors. I'm sorry. Yeah, these are the theories of three theories of well-being that we come across, which try to explain the human state, which is close to reaching the health. Okay, so if we go by these, this what is it that is being stressed? One is driving, going towards the pleasure, and the second one is fulfilling the desires, and the third one is the relational aspect, which create a mental state of happiness, where you gain knowledge and you feel happy, you develop friendship, you feel happy. So these are these kinds of explanations that we have of the well-being. The theory of well-being also help us and tell us that you have to understand health beyond the mere physical and biological and psychological aspects. So that is what I wanted to establish by using this three theory model of well-being. Now, if we are looking at, I also thought, how do we, epistemology as philosophers, what is the epistemology of health? How do you conceptualize? How do you, what are the means through which you gain the knowledge of your health? Okay, because for instance, when you are ill, it is immediately felt. The body feels that. The biological illness, the body immediately feels that, and it is being perceived immediately, cognized immediately by the mechanism that you have, right? So, which means illness has first person experience. When you are ill, you have the first person experience of illness, right? For instance, you don't even recognize your hand as long as something hits it. Okay, you have the hand, but you only become conscious of your hand only when something happens to your hand. Until then, you assume that you have the body and you have all the parts. That's all. You just go ahead. Okay, you will not be conscious of your any of these parts until something hits it. So, is it that illness provides you, or the first person experience is only available of illness? Now, the second aspect of it is, can we have the first person experience of health? Okay, this is a major problem to me. So the question that I was trying to struggling with is, can we have the first person experience of health as we have the first person experience of illness? Okay, this is a serious philosophical problem to me that I am trying to address in the paper that I said that I am writing. So this is one aspect of the story. In fact, you can also think, as I am saying, you will be conscious of your hand only when something hits it, which means only when you transcend the natural state. Okay, when there is a hindrance or artificial infliction, only then you become conscious of the parts of the body. Otherwise, which means you become conscious of your first person consciousness comes into picture. Until then, it doesn't come. So this is an interesting problem that I'm trying to understand, because this is what helps me to understand what is philosophical health. So that's about the epistemology of philosophical health that I thought I should share with you all. But otherwise, as a human being, we all know, we spoke about happiness, health, etc. But one of the important concepts of the human life, which is inclusive of philosophical health, is something like this. It is, we as human beings, let us go by the definition of Greek times, like social beings. If we accept ourselves to be social beings, even if we don't accept it, I consider that we are relational beings. If we are relational beings, what is it that we aim for our life? It is the existence. Our existence is very important. So we worry about our existence. And it is not mere existence that we want, because if you're alone, you will not find life in it. So it is coexistence, which means existing with the other. So this is how we extend ourselves in relation to the other. Okay, and so that is where I say existence itself. If you think that existence itself is sufficient, then your biological health itself would be sufficient. So we don't remain happy with our biological health. We extend it further in terms of the relationality with the other. Okay, that is our coexistence. So coexistence is the one which provides us a better health, conditions of health. Okay, is it that mere coexistence in the sense that I have very different kind of people who are selfish units, no? As Thomas Hobbes talks about, individuals or solitary cells and try to fight with each other because of their selfish interest. No, if that is the case, even then we will not have any kind of the happiness of the coexistence, right? So that is how what is looked at is peaceful coexistence. Okay, so for an individual to be healthy, okay, the biological is important and the relational is important, and it is not just relational, he has to be at the same time peaceful as well. Only then he would feel himself to be at health. Okay, so that is where the relational aspect, and also the relational aspect extending itself to peaceful coexistence, which means the continuous form of negotiations that we make with the world around us, with the beings around us, with the individuals around us, with our own experiences, is very important for me in conceptualizing what is called philosophical health. Okay, so this is where, in fact, I find profound insights within Mahabharata, I mean, within Bhagavad Gita. Dr. Rao was talking about Mahabharata webinar series that I have conducted. Like, we have recorded almost 40 talks on Mahabharata by various scholars, which are available as a repository, and I invite all of you to have a look at those lectures and get benefit from them. So coming back to the point, like Bhagavad Gita provides us insights as to how can you maintain your own self, how can you maintain your relationality with the other, and when you try to maintain the relationality with the other, there are three components that Bhagavad Gita talks about. Okay, one is the other beings that are there, objects that you have. Okay, because in our life, we relate ourselves with the objects, and the way we relate ourselves with the objects around us, whether it is money or gold or house or whatever objects around us, how do we deal with them? How do we establish our relation, and how much detachment, how much attachment is required? That is one aspect. And the relationality with the objects, relationality with the beings. Beings includes human beings, fellow human beings, and also non-human beings. How do you relate yourself with them? How should you relate yourself with them? And then the third one is more important, because the first one is object, second one is the beings, and objects do not have any feelings. So you are the one who is dealing with them. And when it comes to the beings, they also deal with you. It becomes mutual. The third one is more important. It provides insights as to how you should deal with your own experiences. Okay, so the third important component is dealing with your own experiences, which is more profound and difficult for the individuals. So it provides a schema. Bhagavad Gita provides a schema as to how to deal with the objects, how to deal with the beings, and how to deal with our own experiences. So this whole schema is the one which helps us to arrive at a kind of philosophical health which is beyond the biological and mere psychological kind of one. That's why that is how philosophical health is a much broader framework for the individual's life, and much deeper one as well. And it is not something that is outside the individual. It is very much subjective, but at the same time, every individual would feel it. Like every individual would be able to cognize it. If it is so obvious to us, then why is it that we don't care about it and we haven't cared about it so far? No, I believe it's not a true statement, because, for example, when Buddha was worried, Gautama was worried, his worry was about his philosophical health. Okay, and he worried about the things around him, and he was worried as to how should he deal with death, how should he deal with old age, how should he deal with things around him, right? So it is a quest for philosophical health, in fact, that has prompted him to go further in search of the truth, to understand that what is to be mastered is the understanding of the reality of the world, and at the same time how to cultivate a better way of dealing with the reality that you have around us. So that is how, in fact, we can definitely interpret most of the philosophical systems that we have to be responses to the philosophical illness. And these scholars, starting from Shankara and Ramanuja, Madhva, all of them are in fact responding to the quest for philosophical health in addressing the problems of the individual and providing their own perspective and response to the philosophical illness, and prescribing their own methodology of overcoming the problems, existential problems of the individual. So this is how, in fact, it's not just in India. For example, you can start with Socrates, and then come down to Nietzsche and others. All of them, even Wittgenstein, all of them try to address, their insights can be understood as prescriptions of overcoming the philosophical problems and reaching out to a form of philosophical health. So this is something that is important to me. So I thought I should stress this. If I'm saying all this, then I must also have some substantiated, so in this regard, let me so if I argue that what is important is coexistence, peaceful coexistence that every individual human being aims at, and in the process of aiming peaceful coexistence, we have to, in the process of aiming peaceful coexistence, we have to understand the self and the relational aspects. That's what I have argued so far. So here, one thing that I want to tell you, mention here is caution. When I'm talking about philosophical health, I'm not just putting the general kind of conversation. I'm trying to put it within the philosophical realm. That's why I started talking about epistemology. How do you conceptualize epistemology of philosophical health is very important to me. Similarly, the metaphysics, how do you understand the reality of philosophical health is also equally important to me. The ontology is also very important to me, that I have already stressed. So something to be called as philosophical health, there should be it should be philosophically possible. Otherwise, if it is not philosophically possible, you cannot call it to be philosophical health. So that is where I was thinking louder, like our thoughts and worldviews can have a generative and performative impact on our lives. So what we are supposed to recognize as a principle of philosophical health is that our thoughts and worldviews, the way we think and the way we start thinking because of our belief system, can have a generative and also performative impact on our lives. They generate new ideas, new thoughts and new worldviews, extend the existing worldview or create new worldview. And at the same time, they also have a performative impact, which means the way you act in the world is largely limited by them. And that is how there is a possibility of philosophical health for each one of us, in the sense that whatever we are, we know how to extend ourselves, improve ourselves. So if there is no possibility of philosophical health, then I cannot talk about it. So this is a very important principle that I would like to stress. So in this regard, let me once again go back to what Buddha has said, so that because this is very important to me. In Majjhima Nikaya, we come across a discussion between Buddha and Subha. Okay, this is with regard to the importance of human action. Okay, so once a young Brahmin called Subha met the Buddha and questioned what are the causes and conditions why human beings are seen to be inferior and superior, short-lived and long-lived, sick and healthy. Okay, this is important to me. Sick and healthy, ugly and beautiful, uninfluential and influential, poor and wealthy, low-born and high-born, stupid and wise. The Buddha replies to this question. He says, beings are owners of their actions, heirs of their actions. They originate from their actions, are bound to their actions. They have their actions as their refuse. It is action that distinguishes beings as healthy or sick. Okay, so this is from the Majjhima Nikaya of Buddhist canon. So this tells us to understand the importance of human action. And once we understand the importance of human action, we also understand that our actions are determined by as I said, our thoughts and worldviews. And these thoughts and worldviews have a performative impact on our actions. And the process, there is also a reflective. It is not that it is one way, it is also the other way. It is mutually influential way. So that is how the actions also, in a way, modify our worldviews and also our thoughts. And this mutual influence of our worldviews and thoughts in relation to actions is the one which keeps the possibility of philosophical health in the sense of improving oneself. Okay, otherwise going one step ahead of ourselves is never a possibility. So this is one of the important aspects that I should talk about. The other important elements that are conceptualized to be a part of philosophical health, or the concept of samatha that we find in Bhagavad Gita, as I said, equanimity. So that's where I said, I already mentioned about that in terms of how do you deal with the objects, how do you deal with the other beings, and how do you deal with your own experiences, because these three are the ones which complete your ontology, which complete your system that you have, the operating system with which you function, or exhausted by these three. How do you deal with objects, and how do you deal with the beings, and how do you deal with your own self, your own experiences? And the explanation that is provided is in terms of samatha. I think in chapter 6, this is very well explained. In fact, it is important to quote this verse from Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, "Buddhared atmanam atmanam, atmanam avsadayet, atmaiva Atmano bandhu, atmaiva ripuratmana." It is the self which is important. One should lift oneself by one's own efforts and should not denigrate oneself. For one's own self is one's friend. Okay, atmaiva atmano bandhu, atmaiva ripuratmana. And at the same time, your own self can become your enemy as well. So how do you nurture it is very important, and that's what makes your being healthy beyond the biological and psychological aspects. So this I thought is very important that we get as an insight with regard to philosophical health from Bhagavad Gita. The other important aspect with regard to philosophical health that we often stress is alignment. We talk about alignment of wheels of our four-wheelers. So what is it that happens in alignment of wheels? All of them should be in the same relation with each other, so that when you move the steering, it only moves in one way rather than going in different ways. So this alignment, and the perfect alignment that you find in the nature, is your own human body, where one part of the body doesn't come in conflict with the other part of the body, and everything works in synchronous way. Okay, so this alignment is very important. If alignment is important, alignment of what that we are talking in terms of philosophical health is the major concern. So what the alignment of the components, or the components of alignment that we are talking about here are three, which are very much known to us, which Indian tradition has stressed time and again in terms of manasa, vacha, and karmana. So what you think, what you speak, what you act, these three have to be in consonance with the other. It looks to be very simple, but if you reflect on your own actions, and I have also done it, so I suggest that once you start reflecting on your own actions, you find that it is very difficult. And most of the times, what you think, you will not speak, and what you speak, you will not act. And also, what you think of yourself and what you think of the other in the same situation are completely different. And what you speak for yourself, what you speak for the other in relation to the same aspect, is always different. And how you act and how you expect the other to act are always different. Which means the conflict, the binary conflict, dichotomous character that we develop within ourselves is the major problem. So that is how what is prescribed as one of the key aspects of philosophical health is the alignment of thought, word, and action. In order to make it like a workshop, what I have done is I met some of the students of philosophy, and I gave them some instance and asked them, how do you think, what do you think about it, and can you explain it further, and can you how do you act if this kind of a situation is there. And then I also asked them whether they would expect some similar kind of things from the others as well. So there is always a dichotomy that we find. You also please reflect on your actions. You would find that you would give concession to yourself, but you will never give concession to the others. So that is where we lose this concept of compassion. And once you lose this concept of compassion and the extensionality, relationality, ontology of your own self, as often stressed in phenomenology, like care for the other, if that is missing, then it's not the philosophical health of the other, but your philosophical health is what is being getting degenerated, which is to be very cautious of. We all have to be cautious of that. The other important component of this philosophical health is co-creativity. We often assume that through our actions, we only impact the other. But in fact, it is not we impact the other in terms of the objects and beings. It is also that we co-create our own selves and also co-create the other. So once we understand the importance of this co-creativity, the participation of the individual in the creative process, then the responsibility that we would assume of our actions would be more. This is the major problem. This is what we don't teach to our our kids at home as well as in the institutions, because unless we teach them these things, and if we teach them these things, then the concerns that we are raising with regard to, say, for example, environmental, etc., all of them would become minimized, because people would understand that their actions are so important, and in the process of acting in the world, they're also co-creating the world around them for themselves and for the future generations as well. So this provides a chance for the kids to understand the responsibility that they have towards the world and towards their own actions, and for the future generations that we talk about when we talk about environmentalism. So this co-creative aspect is also one of the fundamental principles of this philosophical health. And the last one, I will just stop in say 5 minutes. The last one that is very close to me, that I often think of, because people think that when we are talking about philosophical health, people think often that no, this is all only the general talk, general discussion that somebody is developing. No, it has strong philosophical and scientific way of understanding things. That's why for me this concept is very important. People understood themselves. Human beings have, in the anthropocentric world, people have understood themselves to be autopoietic beings. Autopoiesis is something that argues that the individual is at the center, and the individual can produce himself or herself, the other one. So that is how you create your own. We think that these individuals, for example, if you take the cell, it is self-generating. Okay, cell generates itself, and the subsequent, when a cell dies, it gives space to, or it participates in the creation of its replacing cell, and then it loses itself. So which means a cell is a human cell I'm talking about, biological cell I'm talking about, is a self-generating kind of one. And it is not just self-generating, it is also autonomous. Okay, and it is autonomous as well as dependent on the other, which is very important for us to note. And it is also something that is self-defined with boundaries. Okay, so we have understood human beings to be autopoietic beings in the sense that we generate ourselves, and we are autonomous beings, and also we are self-defining. We define our own boundaries, and we also understand ourselves to be predictable. Okay, so that is how for a long time, due to the influence of anthropocentrism, we have understood ourselves to be autopoietic beings. But now new thought with regard to oh, sorry, I'll stop. I'll just take one more minute and stop with this. So the new thought that is emerging is symbiosis. Okay, people started understanding that we are not autonomous, individual, self-generating systems. In fact, even your self-generation requires a lot of other things around you that make you generate yourself. That is how the symbiosis argues it is we are all collectively producing systems. So we work with each other, though we are not conscious. We work with each other and contribute to our own generation and the generation of the others. I mean, production and production of the others. So this symbiosis is very important, and no defined spatial or temporal boundaries are accepted by this symbiosis. Systems are evolutionary and have the potential of surprising changes as well. It is not that the symbiosis only generates a kind of homogeneous kind of development. No, it surprises itself and comes out with heterogeneous development. So this is another important component of understanding philosophical health, which makes the scientific way of looking at the philosophical health, which facilitates individual to understand himself beyond the confinements of the biological and psychological aspects alone. So this is what I thought is an important composition of the philosophical concept of philosophical health. So initially I have provided you the criticism against philosophical health, and then I also gave response to that, and subsequently I tried to provide from Buddhism as well as from Bhagavad Gita the insights that we can draw for understanding the philosophical health. And then there are 4 points that I have mentioned: samatha and alignment, co-creativity and symbiosis. These are the concepts that are strengthening the conception of philosophical health. So I thank you all for your patience, and I really appreciate the kind of opportunity that I have got on this platform, Philosophical Family. Thank you so much to all of you.
Thank you very much, sir. Really, it was a wonderful lecture. The greatness of the lecture is the originality, the newness, the freshness in the talk. It's an area where we would come to know how philosophy can be associated with health itself. As Professor Devarkonda rightly said, health is, when you talk of philosophical health, it is not just mental, or it is not biological or mental, it is beyond the biological and the psychological, wherein he tried to encompass the social well-being, taking into account the relational aspect and coexistence with the things around, with the entities around, and with one's own individual experiences, wherein he took one's own self as a corrective model for himself, well, in thoughts and in actions. So that's how our own individual experiences would be corrected, would be modified, would be thought over time and again to correct ourselves, so that we can have good relational aspects with other entities around, so that we do not lose ourselves in our own connectivity, but in our own self, and also find a symbiotic relationship with others, so that we can create a platform for mutual existence, mutual coexistence. And that's how we not only improve ourselves, we can improve the cosmos. So that's how he sees a web of connectivity, web of connections around, and it is these connections that count a lot for maintaining one's own individual philosophical health. And as he defines, it is not just biological, it is not just mental, it is beyond, and that includes the social well-being, the connectedness with everything around. And that's how he, at the last, he ended up with the symbiotic relation, wherein he gave importance to the other aspect, wherein we respect other to get the respect from the other, wherein there is a connectedness to correlate with one another, getting benefit, wherein both the parties get the benefit. And this is important for having a good philosophical health. Thank you very much, sir, for the lecture. Well, we have many people. Well, it's the good thing from this is, well, the relationship that you have tried to establish, and from philosophical health that you have talked, many things can be talked about. The environmental ethics, even though you did not talk about it, we can relate your lecture to environmental ethics. We can relate to the human conduct, human well-being, and the social well-being. We can relate to many aspects, and I think the scholars present here would be interacting with you on various questions from your lecture. Well, we have many people here. Well, we have Ranjit sir. Well, sir, you want to say something? Your observation, sir. Welcome, Professor Ghosh.
Thank you, Professor Rao. A new area has been taken up by Professor Balganapathi, and I have one question. In fact, I have 3 questions. The first one is this: that when he's talking about the alignment, the thought, action, and the 3 stages, he's talking about the coherence between thinking, speaking, and acting. So that is and it should be in a form of alignment. But the alignment at times disturbed because of the topsy-turvy roads, etc. Then do you suggest that it is, you have also given the example of cell as the self-generative. So do you suggest that this alignment, the problem with the alignment is itself self-generative? This is one thing. And the second question is this, that if philosophical health is having some relationship with the philosophy of care, I think these 2 questions and others are there also. But the first one is most important, because whether it is the alignment, the disturbed alignment is automatically repaired, or it needs the extraneous help from the society, the societal existence, our societal existence. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ranjit ji, for those two very interesting and important questions. First one is related to alignment. In fact, something that comes forward strongly is from whatever I have said, whether this alignment is either natural or artificial. This is a very important question that comes forward. And if it is in the natural state, is it that the natural state is the health and the artificial is not health? Okay, so these are the things that come forward. In fact, in this regard, again, I take recourse to Bhagavad Gita, which offers a wonderful explanation. It says that samatha, the state of alignment, is the natural state. And though it is natural state, since we have, because of whatever various influences we have come out of that, we have to work hard to reach that natural state. So that is where it says, whenever we think, the thinking and doing, most of us, we decide that we are going to do a particular thing, okay? But we don't do it. This relation between thinking and doing, which means thought and action, the distinction, the dichotomy that we have in thought and action is a profound one. Though it looks very simple to speak, but when it comes to actually putting your actions as per your thoughts, most of the times we find it difficult. For example, I'll get up at 5 o'clock tomorrow. I decided. I think and I decide. And then even if I get up at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, I don't feel like getting up from the bed and continuing. So why is it that this dichotomy between action and thought is so strong within the individual self is important? And in this regard, Bhagavad Gita offers a very interesting explanation. I thought it's important for all of us to know, so let me state that. The example that is given by one of the Swamijis who was explaining it is that from Ramakrishna order, I believe. He says, you come to my place, I offer you a cup of tea, okay? And in front of you, I add some sugar to that and give it to you. And you drink, you sip the tea, and you don't find it sweet, okay? So you say that it is not sweet. Then I tell you that I have added sugar in front of you, but even then it is not sweet. So there could be two reasons, two explanations to this. One is there is insufficient sugar there, or the sugar is not stirred properly. Okay, so he says, if the knowledge, you take sugar to be the knowledge, if the knowledge is insufficient dose within you, then it will not result into action. And the knowledge also has to be stirred within your character. Only then it naturally results in the action. Okay, so he says that is how, when we talk about the point that I have the knowledge of it, but I'm not able to perform the action, which means though I know that there should be an alignment, but I don't know how to make it aligned. He says you have to practice it again and again. You have to, because Advaita tells us that you have to be self-reflective. Continuously you have to be self-reflective. That is how you become self-aware, and that is how you reach that state of samatha. So the alignment that you are talking about, that we were talking about, is possible only with continuous self-reflection on the actions of the individual in relation to the thoughts and words. So this is the kind of response that I would give. And with regard to this philosophical health and philosophical care, in fact, that's where we are working now in this volume that I mentioned before a few minutes. But here, one of the problems that we are also finding, ethics of care is quite popular. And in this ethics of care, it is mostly trying to talk about use of various machinery, artificial intelligence in care, and trying to address those issues alone. But we are more like limiting ourselves to the subjective aspect of it, and how do you talk about it? So that's where it is presently confined. Probably it would be getting extended to that area as well, as you rightly pointed out. Thank you so much for those thoughts, Ranjitji.
Thank you.
I have a small question, sir.
Yes, sir. Welcome, sir.
I am Dr. Srinivasan.
Sir.
Kindly tell me, I've been listening to your,
Okay.
nice lecture. Thank you very much for the same.
Thank you.
How to suppress the contradictory impulses of a human being to develop philosophical health?
Yeah, this I think there are better people to explain than me, but still I'll make an attempt, sir, because I see that you can explain it better than me, but still let me make an attempt. Because somehow, at least our generations are brainwashed with the binary epistemology, where everything is stated to be opposite to each other. Okay, and some people say that there are questions on Bhagavad Gita where some scholars from the western part of the world argue that why should we have equanimity, samatha state? Basically what we are supposed to, because samatha is zero, what we are supposed to do is increasing the pleasure and decreasing the pain. Instead of doing that, why should we talk about samatha? Right? This is the kind of question that we come across. So where the contradictions are very important for them, and in the contradictions, you have to enhance the positive one and decrease the negative one. But when we look at least when we responded from Bhagavad Gita's perspective or Indian tradition, it is the completeness which is very important, and this completeness is available to all of us. Only thing is we don't reach out to that, and reaching out to that is possible only through self-reflection. So as you are saying, if I have to go beyond this binary epistemology, then I have to inculcate or look at the epistemologies that we have in Indian tradition. For example, Buddhism talks about Madhya Marga, the middle path. Okay, so you don't have to approach it from the binary. You can approach it from Madhya Marga. Similarly, Jainism talks about Anekantavada. So it is not that there are only two. There are many-sidedness, many aspects of the reality, and your standpoint is always limited. That knowledge itself helps us in going beyond these contradictories. The third model that I can talk about is Advaita Vedantic model of Anirvachaniya, because it is neither completely real nor completely unreal, and that is how you cannot substantiate saying that this is at this particular point of time real. So that is how indescribability of the contradictions is another important aspect, another important model of epistemology that our profound tradition has given. And these three models definitely help us to go beyond the contradictories that we always come across in our life situations. So this is how I would respond to that.
Okay, thank you very much for your explanation. I understand that you quoted about Buddhism, you quoted about Jainism, you quoted about Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Advaita Vedanta philosophy. But how is it that you have all forgotten about the Patanjali Maharishi, who has written very nicely about compassion, fraternity, the friendliness and karunya, everything has been explained in detail. It would have been finer if you have added all those things. It is just like putting a cherry on the ice cream. Thank you, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Only thing is, these days, since everybody is talking about yoga, I thought I should talk about other aspects other than yoga. But otherwise, I have nothing against that. Thank you. We can't hear you, Rao sir.
Okay, thank you, Professor Balganapathi sir. Well, very nicely you have responded to the questions, and may I now request Professor Pramod Das to have his observations on the entire issue. Okay, welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you and pranam to the esteemed speakers of this session. I really appreciate this topic and this talk and the speaker. Philosophical health is reflected in the smiling face of the speaker. So that is the testimony. So when we speak something, our body language, our thoughts, our vibration, that should reflect that topic. Okay, so I appreciate this topic because this is a new topic. I shall speak only two or three points. Uh, Without food, we can't think of physical health. But when we are taking food, if they are not properly digested, we can't even think of a proper health. That means food we take that should be digested, and that from that food we get blood and other necessary um, elements, energy of our body. So that constitutes our physical health or biological health. Similarly, when we are talking about philosophical health, when we are studying philosophy, philosophical concepts, we are studying Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, and many philosophical literatures. That should be digested properly. Otherwise, philosophical health is not possible. As food should be digested, thoughts should be digested. Thoughts should be grasped. Thoughts should be lived. That thoughts should be practiced in the practical life. So all Indian philosophers, seers, they believe in this practice. They believe in the practice of wisdom, not the only theoretical wisdom. Conceptual analysis is not sufficient. So when the speaker spoke about philosophical health, he is speaking about existence. That there are three types of existence. One is the biological existence, the second is the psychological existence, and the third one is the spiritual existence. Spiritual existence is generally ignored in Western culture, but here in Indian culture we give importance to the spiritual existence. Man not only exists biologically, man exists psychologically, and man has spiritual existence. Biologically, there are so many instructions and prohibitions in our culture, as Dr. Srinivasanji said about Patanjali Yoga. There are Jama, Niyam, and there are Pranayam. So many techniques are there to how to maintain a good health. Indian culture does not ignore body or does not ignore matter. Body is the real asset of any spiritual sadhana. So we should have good biological health. But when we are talking about psychological health, we are coming to epistemology. That we should know the limit of human knowledge. We should know, because for the realization of truth, epistemology is the only door. Otherwise, we can't have any access to the truth. So psychological discipline, that is also very much necessary, and that existence is very much important. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, not only karma is given importance. Bhagavad Gita it is said that Jnana Karma Bhakti Samuchaya. That means one's personality should be groomed by the three disciplines: right action, right knowledge, and right devotion. So spiritual, when we are talking about spiritual existence, the speaker spoke very nicely. That is about alignment of thought, speech, and action. That is about equanimity of mind. That is about the understanding of the dialectics. When we understand the dialectical possibilities, that tat ejati, tat nad ejati, tat dure, tat antike, all these are opposite possibilities are understood when we are spiritually evolved. These are beyond psychological possibilities. In psychology, we stop ourselves in dichotomies. P and not P are contradictions in logic. We can't say that they can coexist. But the coexistence of the dialectical opposites are possible in spiritual sadhana. Therefore, we speak of Advaita Vedanta, we speak of Bhagavad Gita, where manifest and unmanifest both are taken to be real. So, spiritual existence is also necessary. So, when we are talking about philosophical health, we should ask ourselves if we are studying philosophy since 50 years, 40 years, and we are teaching philosophy for 30 years, 40 years. What is our real health? What is the outcome of that? That means what we have become. So in the in both Bhagavad Gita and Advaita Vedanta, it is said, knowing is becoming. If you know the truth, you have to become the truth. Brahmavid Brahmeva Bhavati. So if you know the truth, you have to become that truth. So that becoming is spirituality. You have to become. Mere knowing is epistemology. But when you are knowing, you are becoming what you are knowing, that is spiritual existence. So these three types of existence there should be a beautiful harmony, otherwise we shall be trapped by, limited by one existence, and that is the real crisis today. Many people are trapped by biological existence, so they have become materialists. More buildings, more wealth, more possession, they are satisfied with that. Many people are satisfied with psychological existence. They are interested in giving debates, tarka, vitarka, for good for nothing. They no conclusion, only discussion, and they have that ego that I know everything, and I have such certificates, degrees, etc., etc. But the real spiritual existence is, as Sir said, that is the alignment in thought, speech, and action. That is the equanimity of mind. That is Tita Prajna. That means, and that is possible when one transcends all the biological and psychological existence, and when one can perceive the totality. That is the Vishwarupa in Bhagavad Gita. And totality means the dialectical opposites one can see. Okay, so that is the complete personality or Purna Bhyaktitva. So philosophical health suggests that one should be healthy in three facets of our existence. Biologically, we should be healthy, psychologically, we should be healthy, and spiritually, we should be healthy. And if we attain that state, we can say that is the state of a Jivana Mukta. If we really one has these three types of health, then that is literally we can say that is Jivana Mukta. And when I was hearing the speaker, esteemed speaker of this session, that this message, this vibration was reflected in his face, in his body language, and in his contents of speech. Thank you. We shall we shall invite again and again, sir. We are grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Das, for your observations. And as Professor Das says, so the true philosophical health lies in translating the knowledge to action, the alignment of knowing and becoming what we know. So, and that's the message from the Advaita Vedanta, and even Professor Balganapathi too nearly comes. He comes to that point actually when he talks of alignment of thought, speech, and action. He's saying the same thing where somehow or the other knowing is becoming, and that somehow reflects the true philosophical health. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Balganapathi sir, for taking this very new topic, and it's a food for a lot of discussion and a lot of new areas we can correlate, because now we have taken the first step to carry on research relating to this philosophical health, and that's how there lies the originality. And I should really thank this. And it has come with philosophy family. That's why I thank you from the core of my heart that something new has come to philosophy family, and we can think of this in more details, and we'll invite you time and again so that we can discuss on the subject in greater details. Thank you so much, sir. Now